Basically, what we did last night was respond to the scene and determine that what the father was telling us, the scene was consistent with what he told us. There was water outside the tub. There was bodily fluids from the child that we saw that the father said. So it matched up with what he said. But ultimately, what will determine if there will be any criminal charges will be the results of the autopsy. That won't be done until tomorrow. So while it looks now, it has all the earmarkings of an accident. You know, the child unfortunately succumbed to his injuries due to an accident. If the autopsy tells us something different, then we will go to the district attorney's office asking for charges to be brought. We don't expect that to happen, but it's possible that it could, depending on the autopsy. Obviously, you know, it doesn't take a great deal of water to drown in, so, but everything at this point is pointing to an accident. And, you know, the child was 3 years old. It was not an infant. It wasn't a toddler. It was a 3-year-old. And the father said that the child was, you know, like most young boys play in the bathtub with boats or whatever. The child was playing in the tub. He decided to go outside and smoke a cigarette. We were able to verify he was outside by next door neighbors saying they actually spoke to him while he was outside smoking a cigarette. And he wasn't outside for an extended period of time. It was just for a few moments. So unfortunately, when he came back in, what had happened to his son had happened. He immediately started resuscitation efforts, and paramedics and other medical personnel were called to the scene, and they took over those duties and transported the child, but unfortunately the child succumbed to his injuries by the time he got to Thomas Hospital. It's my understanding that it was just the father and the son present. I do not believe there are any other children, and it's my understanding that possibly the father or the father and the child's mother are in the process of divorce or separated at this time. And that's what we're hoping the autopsy would show us. If there is any foul play, the autopsy would show us what that foul play may have been. And one of the main things we'll look at is water in the lungs, things along those lines. If the child was deceased before it went in the water, then obviously he would not have been breathing, would not have sucked water into his lungs. So those are issues like that. Also bruises or marks or bumps on the head or bumps on the body. All those things were looked at last night, and there did not appear to be any obvious signs of trauma. But then again, sometimes, you know, when you look at an autopsy versus just someone who glances at a scene by eyesight, things could change dramatically. So that's what we'll wait for to make a complete determination. But at this time, it looks like it was an accident. But the autopsy may tell us something completely different. And if it does, then our investigation will go in another direction. It's obviously very traumatic. It would be very traumatic for any parent to find their 3-year-old like this. So, I mean, I can't imagine what the family's going through, and the Sheriff's Department heart goes out to this family. But, you know, it's a lesson learned that, you know, regardless how old or it only takes a moment to look away at an accident happen, and accidents happen every day. So, you know, if there is a lesson learned in this, is just be a little more attentive. Maybe instead of being gone 4 or 5 minutes, maybe you should have checked back in a minute or two. You know, a 3-year-old, as you said, is pretty well self-sufficient to some degree. But as we all know, children have accidents, and children do things sometimes that when a parent isn't around or a guardian isn't around that they wouldn't do if they were there. So we don't know what happened at this point, but obviously, you know, it cost this child its life. So, you know, we would just caution parents to be a little more, you know, observant than you normally would be.